spread my wings and fly to where my dreams can come true. I wanna be in a place where they understand the stirrings of my heart, where people just like me will take me as I am. Part of this big wide world, where I can spread my wings and fly to. Where I can spread my wings and fly to where my dreams can come true. I wanna be in a place where they understand the stirrings of my heart, where people just like me will take me as I am. Big wide world, where I can spread my wings and fly to where my dreams can come true. I wanna be in a place where they understand the stirrings of my heart, where people just like me will take me as I am. Name me
Hi, Tess. Can you hear me?
Mic test. Yeah. Maayong buntag sa inyong tanan. Can everyone hear me? I suppose. Um, yes, I can. I just want to, before I start, no, I just want to say really quickly that I have friends who are listening on FB, and apparently there is still no audio. So just to let you know, in Zoom it's perfectly clear, but in for inviting me to speak to you today. This morning, I will be talking about the amazing diversity of large marine vertebrates in the Bohol Sea. So I'll be sharing with you my screen. Oops. I hope everyone can see my screen. Yes? Okay, I can't hear anything from everyone else. So I'm assuming people can see the screen right now. Um, so I hope everyone here joining us today knows where the Bohol Sea is. Okay, so it is also known as the Mindanao Sea. It is a large body of water, approximately 29,000 square kilometers. It connects to the Sulu Sea to the west and the Pacific Ocean to the east. Because the Bohol Sea has a relatively short continental shelf, there is considerable pelagic ocean habitat close to the shores of the surrounding islands. These are distinctive bathymetric conditions that contribute to deep water upwelling and are associated with high primary productivity. These characteristics of the Bohol Sea make it an area where large marine vertebrates live, breed, and feed. It is where many species of cetaceans, whales and dolphins, sharks, including whale sharks, mobile rays, marine turtles are found. All of these are also referred to as large marine vertebrates, or LMVs for short. Large marine vertebrates are some of the well-known charismatic megafauna in the sea. What does charismatic megafauna mean? These are popular charismatic species that serve as symbols and rallying points to stimulate conservation awareness and action. They can also be referred to as these large animals or the megavertebrates with widespread popular appeal. So they're very popular and they're often used by environmental or conservation groups to get attention towards a cause or to achieve their goals. Often, these animals are also considered as flagship species. A flagship species is a species that can be used to anchor a conservation campaign because it arouses public interest and sympathy. In the Bohol Sea, there are at least 18 species of cetaceans, or whales and dolphins, that we know of. Many species of sharks, including the whale shark, locally known in the Bohol Sea region as Balilan, Tawiki, Ihotiki, Toki-Toki, or more popularly known in our country as Butanding. There are also at least 5 species of mobula rays or devil rays. Here in Bohol, they are known to fishers as sanga, the manta ray, or pantihan. These are the smaller mobula species. In Hagna specifically, where I am right now, fishers have local names for each of these species, like Salindangan, Binsulan, and more. There are also at least 3 species of marine turtles found in the Bohol Sea. You have the green sea turtle, hawksbill turtle, and the leatherback turtle. Most of these species of LMVs are globally threatened. For example, the blue whale, the sperm whale, whale sharks, marine turtles, and the different mobula species. What is the significance of the Bohol Sea? Because of the presence of these species, together with other marine organisms like seaweeds, seagrasses, mollusks, corals, and reef fishes, it has been designated as one of the marine key biodiversity areas in the country. This was mentioned earlier during the Dean's introduction. What is a marine KBA? Marine KBAs are sites of global significance for biodiversity conservation. Through specific criteria, these sites are identified through the presence of globally threatened and or restricted range species. This is done to identify priority areas for conservation. The Bohol Sea has also been designated as an important marine mammal area. What is an IMA, or an important marine mammal area? IMAs are discrete portions of habitat that are important to marine mammal species that have the potential to be delineated and managed for conservation. With 18 species of 26 species that we have in the country, it represents the highest diversity of cetaceans in the Philippines. Species include threatened whales that were historically hunted. It is also known as an area of aggregation of other smaller cetaceans such as melon-headed whales, Fraser's dolphins, and spinner dolphins. In our country, these LMVs are under the management and protection of DABFAR and DNR mainly. There are many national laws protecting the LMVs, like FAO 185 and 185-1, protecting these the different species of whales and dolphins, FAO 193, protecting whale sharks and manta rays, FAO 208, our fisheries code, and amended by 10654, and also, of course, our Wildlife Act. There is also a joint administrative order between the Department of Tourism and the Department of Agriculture that provides the guidelines for people interacting with cetaceans. And the most recent one is the DOT-DA DILG Joint Memorandum Circular that provides the rules and regulations for the marine wildlife tourism interactions in the Philippines. Because I mainly study marine mammals, specifically cetaceans, I'd be focusing more on the whales and dolphins found here in the Bohol Sea. Out of 26 species of cetaceans in the country, not counting subspecies, 18 species, as I mentioned, are found here in the Bohol Sea. 2 of these species are threatened, the blue whale and the sperm whale. Most others are data deficient. Data deficient doesn't mean that they are not threatened or they are abundant. It simply means we don't know enough about them to make the proper assessment of their status, making it even more important to study them. 3 species have been historically hunted locally: the Bryde's whale, Omura's whale, and the sperm whale. American whalers hunted sperm whales in the late 19th century. while local whalers from Bohol, Camiguin, and other parts of northern Mindanao hunted Brodus whales and Umuras whales at around the same time, probably even earlier. The Bohol Sea is the only known area in the country where the largest animal on Earth is found, the blue whale, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with by now. We know very little about the blue whale in the Philippines. It was only in 2004 that the species was confirmed to occur in the country, and it has so far only been documented to occur here in the Bohol Sea. Since 2004, the blue whale has been documented or noted 33 times. One whale has been photo-identified and encountered 13 times in 8 different years. We still don't know if there is more than one blue whale in the Bohol Sea. We don't know what it is doing here. Is it migrating here to breed? Is it migrating here to feed? Or is it a resident? Does it stay here year-round and we simply just don't see it? There are still a lot of questions still unanswered about blue whales here in the Philippines and in the Bohol Sea specifically. How do we study blue whales? The main method used to study blue whales is through photo identification or photo ID. We go on small boats and search for whales with our digital SLR cameras. And once a blue whale is seen, we take photos of it, particularly its sides or flukes or flanks. Then those photos are ranked based on the quality of the image and the distinctiveness of the feature of the photo. Each unique individual whale is then given a number or a name and stored in a photo ID catalog. In photo IDing blue whales, the feature we take photos of is the side of the whale or the flank. So shown here in the photo is the left side of the whale that we have photo identified and have been named Bughaw, which we all know means blue. Yeah? And as you can see, the one in the rectangular red figure in the photo, it shows you the unique patches or blotches of light and dark pigmentation. And this is what we look at to identify each particular blue whale. So each individual blue whale has unique patterns of these blotches. However, other identifying features can also be used, like the shape of the dorsal fin, if it has any. In the case of Bughaw, as you can see in the slide, in the lower photo on the left, it actually has a semicircular indentation on the left side of the dorsal fin that we can use also to identify it. Or it can also have different cuts and nicks on the fluke or the tail. Again, as shown here in the photo, Bughaw has these two nicks that you can see on the left and the right side of its fluke, which can also be used to identify the blue whale. Other species of cetaceans can also be photo-identified, but we use a different feature. Such as in the melonheads, we use the dorsal fins for photo identification. So as shown here, you can see that different individuals will have different markings like cuts and nicks on their dorsal fin. And when you take a photo of that and make sure that each one is unique for each side of the animal, then you can also name it and then put it in a catalog and be able to refer to it later when you take photos of other melon-headed whales. The same can be done for short-finned pilot whales, so another species of small cetacean found here in the Bohol Sea. But there are threats to large marine vertebrates, not just to whales and dolphins, but all the large marine vertebrates in the Bohol Sea. Although protected, and most people are aware that it is illegal to catch them, we still get reports of accidentally caught large marine vertebrates like dolphins, sea turtles, and whale sharks. LMVs are still accidentally caught in various types of fishing gear, particularly gill nets. As you can see here, plastics and other marine debris or discarded fishing gear, which are also referred to as ghost gear, can also accidentally entangle LMVs. Or in some cases, well, which is actually more often now in the past few years, small pieces of marine debris, often small pieces of plastics, such as plastic bags, are accidentally ingested by some LMVs. Human activities are also destroying or degrading the habitats of LMVs. Various types of pollution are the main culprits, such as chemical pollution, solid waste pollution, even light pollution for certain species. Also, unregulated coastal development, such as destruction of nesting sites, are one of the increasing threats to LMVs. Going to specifically for marine turtles, marine turtle nesting sites, for example, are slowly disappearing because they are developed into roads or there are too many houses built on beaches. The beaches are littered with trash or even boats that are docked there and other structures. And this makes it very difficult for marine turtles that are nesting to nest in their nesting sites. So as you probably know, female marine turtles go back to the nesting site where they were born or where they hatched. So when they go back to these beaches, many years, decades after they hatched from there, they find that it is very different from back then. So they can't even find a place for them to nest anymore. You can see in the photo on the lower leftmost, this is a marine turtle that was found trying to nest. It was able to eventually successfully nest here in Hagna, but it had to go through a maze of boats, wood, and other pieces of marine debris on the beach before it could find a clear area that it could dig and lay its eggs. The other threat is unregulated, irresponsible interactions or tourism activities that are disturbing and harassing LMVs. There are still dolphin or whale watching activities around the country or even here in the Bohol Sea that unfortunately are not regulated, and the people running them are not trained on how to responsibly approach cetaceans, and this could disturb them and harass them, and in some cases, even physically harm them. Feeding of whale sharks is also threatening the normal ecology of these species. I'm sure you've heard of the case here in Bohol, in the town of Lila. And there are other initiatives that we hear of about planning to do swim with programs with either whale sharks or cetaceans or even marine turtles. So going too close or touching them or using flash photography, all of these activities are harmful to these animals. They either disturb them or just harass them, which is very dangerous, especially when they are trying to perform activities that are critical for their survival, such as resting, breeding, or even feeding. Areas with high boat or ship or vessel traffic are also dangerous, particularly for large whales. Noise from vessels and sonar exercises can also cause disturbance to cetaceans, particularly beaked whales. Sadly, there are still cases of directed catch of LMVs, like dolphins. The photo you see here at the bottom left, this one will actually happen this year, and not too far from here, not specifically in the Bohol Sea, but in our country, in a protected area. So it still happens. Back in 2010, if you may have missed it in the news, a whale shark was found dead in Tingloy in Batangas with its fins cut off. And because I know this is a particular interest for people here in Bohol, no, especially from HNU, I'd like to talk briefly about the strandings of marine turtles in Bohol this year. So this year, there have been 7 strandings of marine turtles in Bohol within a few days apart and all in 1 month. It all happened in the month of July. 2 of these specimens were examined in the zoology lab at HNU. Thank you very much. When we conducted the necropsy on these specimens, we found various types of plastics inside their stomach and their intestines, like a fishing line, which was over 1 meter long, strands of nylon rope, candy and food wrappers, plastic bags. Plastic bags that are these small, I guess people commonly refer to them as just like cellophane. I think these are the ones that are used to put your fish balls or your squid balls that you buy outside. And there were also other tiny pieces of plastics inside. Although these plastics may not have directly caused their death or directly caused the stranding, it definitely contributed to their overall ill health, which led to their stranding. So what can you do? Each and every one of you, each and every one of us can do something to help protect LMVs and their habitats. Report and document any incidents of accidental or directed catch of LMVs. Report to your local authority, to your barangay captain, bantay dagat, to the police. Report and document strandings and sightings. I believe most people have mobile phones with cameras. Use it. Use it wisely. If there is a stranding in your area, take photos, take videos. Take lots of photos of the animals from the sides and all the angles. Pwede pa rin mag-selfie, wag nyo lang hahawakan or wag kayong lalapit if it's still alive, especially. Okay? Pero take photos of the animals, less of yourself with the animal. The head, because this is used to identify the species, especially for cetaceans. Report them, and please share them. So you can post it on social media pages of concerned agencies like BEMO, Bohol Environment Management Office. They're here today listening to your LGU, or the National Museum of the Philippines, and also Balyana.org. So you can share your sightings or strandings, and we will help you identify and even point you to the right direction of who to report it to if you don't know. I'm sure everyone here has heard or seen the videos and photos of those kids who encountered the killer whales in Garcia Hernandez a few months ago. Although I wouldn't recommend going on a small boat with a group of people without life vests and without following safety protocols, I do commend them for taking good photos and videos of their encounter and for sharing it. Killer whale sightings are few and far between in our country. We know very, very little about killer whales. And so documenting every encounter or sighting is very important, but please do it safely. And then lastly, do not patronize irresponsible or unaccredited tourism activities such as feeding of whale sharks or whatever LMV. Any swim with programs should not be patronized, or any unregulated or irresponsible dolphin watching activities should not be patronized. Please don't feed the whale sharks. Don't go have segregated garbage collections. Know the schedule, know the system, and follow it. Repurpose or reuse as much as you can. All of these containers, plastic containers that you may not have been able to avoid using, please reuse them. Use them for something else or something even better. Demand from your institution or your management or your LGU for a proper solid waste management plan. Banning plastics in your university, for example, or your municipalities, and promote the use of reusable drink bottles and other containers. For example, Silliman University banned single-use plastics in their cafeteria last year in April. You have to bring your own food containers to buy food in their cafeteria. And of course, single-use plastics have been banned in all government offices. So you shouldn't even be using plastic cups anymore or these plastic disposable water bottles in your meetings, for example. So, and also stop serving food in these styrofoam containers or plastic containers that cannot be reused. It will save you money in the long run too. Be proactive. I think that's something that's very, very important to remember, especially for the young people out there. Know all the issues going around like in the world or in the country. Take the initiative to do what you can. Do your own cleanup, for example, in your own neighborhood or your beach. Even pick up trash that you see on the street, on the road, or on the beach without having to be asked. I think that's a big thing already. And find out what is happening in your community, in your village, or in your town, and participate. There are so many activities out there. I would just like to promote, there is one group here in Bohol, in Panglao, no, that's doing a beach cleanup and a brand audit for all the trash that they will pick up. I think it's happening tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Please participate if you live in Panglao, especially. It's a very, very good project, and it's something that you can do and you can help with. You can even start your own project. By changing your own habits, you can influence your family, your friends, your classmates, your boyfriends, girlfriends, office mates, and neighbors. We can all do our part in our own little way and influence others in the process. Yun lang po. Dagang salamat, maraming salamat, at maayong adlaw sa inyong tanan. Yes, loud and clear. I'm not sure, but maybe because I mentioned about the coastal cleanup in Panglao, I am not sure if in the national activity, the national coastal cleanup is postponed or canceled because of the pandemic. But I believe certain groups, smaller groups in their own communities are organizing their own. Pero kasi yung international coastal cleanup, I believe that's usually done in the Manila Bay area. I'm not very familiar, unfortunately, because I've never participated in the national one. I've always participated in smaller group coastal cleanups. Pero I'm sure you can check on their social media pages or in the news if it's still happening, because it's supposed to happen this weekend already. So as I mentioned, here in Bohol, there is at least one here in Panglao. So far, because our study only started actually like the annual citation survey that balena.org has been conducting only started in 2015. So that is actually quite recent. So technically, we only have like 5 years of data. At least we know that certain species can be found during the period of between February and June. And these are the smaller species. You have your melon-headed whales, the pilot whales, the spinner dolphins, rhesus dolphins. And although we have observed them mainly resting, we've never actually seen them feed. So it's very difficult with very limited data, and also because we were quite focused on the blue whale, to be able to tell exactly what these animals are doing. But there have been other published papers about certain species like spinners and Fraser's dolphins. They even have abundance estimates for some of them that already includes, it's more of like, although they were not specifically looking at the Bohol Sea, the Bohol Sea, we are connected to the Sulu Sea, for example, then it's sort of a generalized idea on what these species are doing. So we believe certain species are residents, but until a longer term study is conducted that investigates all seasons, we can't tell for sure. So spinner dolphins, for example, this is only something that we actually observed this year. We've always thought that spinner dolphins are residents in the Bohol Sea. These are your most popular cetacean species here in Bohol. They're the ones that are seen often by dolphin watching activities. So we thought, because they're seen between February until June, we thought they were residents. But the thing is, we, like our group, has actually never surveyed outside of that season until this year. And it wasn't even intentional. It was because of the pandemic that we were not able to conduct our annual survey during those months. But finally, when we have looser restrictions and we got the permission from BEMO to do our survey, we were able to go out just last week. And it was very interesting because we didn't even see spinner dolphins. So this is interesting for us because it's like we thought they were resident. We thought we can see them all year round, but we didn't see them this time. Although I have to note now, we only went out for 2 days. So that's still quite short, not enough data to substantiate any conclusion about it, but it's still very interesting. We saw rhesus dolphins instead in bigger numbers than we normally see them. So that alone is interesting. So yung short answer to that is we don't exactly know. We have suspicions for some, those the ones that we've been seeing regularly during a particular time of the year, but because we are not surveying outside of that season, we cannot say for sure that we don't see them or they're not resident or they're not migrating. But for the large whales, most large whales, at least I say most because there are special cases. For example, blue whales, um, most populations of blue whales around the world are migratory. So they have particular areas for feeding and breeding. Pero dito sa Bohol Sea, we don't know. We don't know if they come here to feed or to breed or are they resident. We just don't see them. So, yes, that's it. Um, well, it's possible, no? Although that area, yes, yeah. So it's Yeah, so it's possible. These animals are because that area is still connected to the Bohol Sea, no? Um, we don't know for sure what other species are found in that area because no one has really surveyed in terms of cetaceans, no? We have actually never surveyed that area near Cabilao. We've always focused on the Bohol Marine Triangle area and here along the coast, from Garcia Hernandez all the way to the east to Anda and some parts in between Camiguin and Bohol. But we haven't surveyed that part of Bohol, the Cabilao area. So it's possible. I wish you can share photographs if you have photographs. It will be much easier to see and it will be very, very interesting to see. Magandang tanong yan. That's more of a historical question, I would say. Like live, ha? Or at least recently stranded. Ang pinaka-recent na alam ko na sighting pero patay na was a baleen whale. The baleen whale could no longer be identified because by the time it was seen, it was actually accidentally hit by one of the ships and was taken to Manila Bay. Decomposing na siya. So I believe tissue samples were taken for genetic analysis, but nothing has actually come out of the study. No one knows if they were able to identify the species. But in terms of photographs, it's definitely a baleen whale, but we can't tell the species. Pero historically, whale sharks have been found in Manila Bay. When I say historically, this is way back in the early 1920s. Na I think it was Here who was able to document. There was a photo in one of his publications showing a huge whale shark that was landed um, um, on Manila Bay, like off the shores of Manila Bay. Pero yung pinaka-recent live, I have to say, I do not know. Actually, that answers yung question kanina about the international coastal cleanup if it's postponed or canceled. So I guess it means it is canceled, but you can do your own coastal cleanup in your own household, or as I mentioned, in small communities and small groups. Definitely, no, I completely agree. Na it should be like the pride of every Boholano and every person that lives around the Bohol Sea or Mindanao Sea region should be proud of the fact that you have all these LMPs found in the Bohol Sea. But yes, as I mentioned, no, any human activities, particularly tourism activity, should be done responsibly. Um, I hope there will be more, how do you say, like info campaign about this recent joint memorandum that I mentioned about how to interact with marine wildlife in the Philippines, because that will give you all the guidelines on how you should conduct these activities. So definitely tourism is a very good way to inform people, make people more aware if it is done responsibly. So follow these guidelines. I think I mentioned the basics of it. Make sure that when you are going to go on these tourism activities, make sure to do your research. Find out first who are the people are trained to do this activity. Are they accredited by the Department of Tourism or the local government office or even DNR and BFAR? Make sure that they are recommended by these groups. Do not, the basics of interaction with marine wildlife, specifically LMVs, do not feed them, do not touch them, don't go too close, do not disturb them. Yun lang po.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Dr. Acebes. Good morning to my colleagues, friends in HNU, to Zoom viewers, and those viewing from Facebook Live. Black corals, or antipatharians, are one of the most understudied groups of corals in the Philippines, mostly because they thrive in deeper parts of the sea. Because of that, very little is known about this group. In terms of species inventory, we don't really know for sure how many black corals we have in the Philippines, but if we base it from literature, museum records, those coming from the Smithsonian Institution, California Academy of Sciences, and we add on the result of our study, there are probably around 28 species or a little bit more under 11 genera of black corals in the Philippines. These black corals were collected from the depth of 3 meters until about 914 meters. Now, from these 28, give or take, 11 species of these were all collected in Anda and Hagna, that's under 5 genera. Now, this morning, I would like to share some of the results of our study, including the species of black corals reported for the first time in the Philippines. I have prepared a pre-recorded 10-minute video presentation of my talk. Thank you very much and enjoy. The Bohol Sea, in the shallow portion, you have the coral reef area with several scleractinian or hard corals and some species of soft corals such as these organisms. As you descend deeper to about 30 meters and beyond, there are other kinds of corals dominating. These are mostly soft corals, like this one in Hagna at 35 meters, or these soft corals in Anda at 40 meters, and several antipatharian corals. These are mostly soft corals. They are colonial organisms with polyps containing 6 unbranched tentacles. The colony can grow in one in Hagna at 35 meters, or these soft corals in Anda at 40 meters, and several antipatharian corals. They are colonial organisms with polyps containing 6 unbranched tentacles. The colony can grow in 35 meters, or these soft corals in Anda at 40 meters. Yes, very clearly. Okay. The Bohol Sea is home to many kinds of corals. In the shallow portion, you have the coral reef area with several scleractinian or hard corals and some species of soft corals such as these organisms. As you descend deeper to about 30 meters and beyond, there are other kinds of corals dominating these areas. These are mostly soft corals, like this one in Hagna at 35 meters, or these soft corals in Anda at 40 meters, and several antipatharian corals, commonly known as the black corals. What are black corals? They are colonial organisms with polyps containing 6 unbranched tentacles. The colony can grow in many different, often tree-like patterns. They could be branching, bottle brush, fan-shaped, and whip-like in appearance. Skeletons are organic and consist of concentric layers of protein and chitin, black or dark brown in color, hence black coral, and covered with spines or skeletal spines. The estimated number of known black coral species is about 250 or even more. They occur worldwide in all oceans and can be found living at depths ranging from 2 meters to as deep as 8,600 meters. Black corals predominantly thrive in low-light environment below the photic zone, and when they do occur in shallow water, reef area with the Bohol Sea is home to many kinds of corals. In the shallow portion, you have the coral reef area with several scleractinian or hard corals, and some species of soft corals such as these organisms. As you descend deeper to about 30 meters and beyond, there are other kinds of corals dominating these areas. These are mostly soft corals, like this one in Hagna at 35 meters, or these soft corals in Anda at 40 meters, and several antipatharian corals, commonly known as the black corals. What are black corals? They are colonial organisms with polyps containing 6 unbranched tentacles. The colony can grow in many different, often tree-like patterns. They could be branching, bottle brush, fan-shaped, and whip-like in appearance. Skeletons are organic and consist of concentric layers of protein and chitin, black or dark brown in color, hence black coral, and covered with spines or skeletal spines. The estimated number of known black coral species is about 250 or even more. They occur worldwide in all oceans and can be found living at depths ranging from 2 meters to as deep as 8,600 meters. Black corals predominantly thrive in low-light environment below the photic zone, and when they do occur in shallow water, they are found in areas with reduced light intensity, as you can see in this video. In the Philippines, the deepest recorded depth where a black coral species was found was at 914 meters in Camarines Sur. Among the 3 major island groups, Visayas to date has the highest number of recorded species. However, black corals remain largely understudied, mainly due to the risk associated with deep diving and the logistical challenges of surveying deep water environments. Unfortunately, there were reports of black coral trade and illegal harvest in the Philippines, mainly because these corals are highly prized in the jewelry trade. The objectives of our antipatharian research are as follows. Species identification based on these morphological characters, diversity and distribution, including their ecological role, especially in depth deeper than the coral reef area. We collected 33 samples in Anda and Hagna Bohol from the depth of 20 meters to 42 meters. We imaged the samples using scanning electron microscopy or SEM in order to examine the details of the skeletal spines. The in situ photograph, colony branching patterns, morphology of the polyps, and most importantly, the morphology of the skeletal spines were the basis of the species identification. From the 33 samples we collected in Anda and Hagna, we were able to identify 11 species in 3 families and 5 genera. Family Antipathidae, Family Mariopathidae, and Family Apanipathidae. From the 11 species, 6 of these were reported for the first time in the Philippines. For Family Antipathidae, we were able to identify 8 species under 3 genera, Antipathes, Siripathes, and Stichopathes. The genus Antipathes is generally characterized by colonies that are bushy with spreading branches or fan-shaped in appearance. There were 3 species of Antipathes that we identified in Anda and Hagna, and 2 of these species, Antipathes arborea, and Antipathes grandis were reported for the first time in the Philippines. The genus Cirripates is characterized by a whip-like colony with polyps occurring in multiple rows along the corallum. In this genus, we identified 4 species, where 2 were also reported for the first time in the Philippines: Rumphi and Cirripates contorta. This is Stichopates of the family Antipathidae. It is characterized by a whip-like colony with polyps situated in one side of the corallum. And this one here is an unidentified whip black coral species. Species under the genus Cuprissopathes. Species under the genus Cuprissopathes. identified whip black coral species. For family Mariopathidae, we've identified 2 species under the genus Cuprissopathes, Cuprissopathes sp and Cuprissopathes pumila. Cuprissopathes pumila is also a new record in the Philippines. For family Apanipathidae, we've identified Panopathes cancellata that's also reported for the first time in the Philippines. In terms of species distribution, we found out that black corals in Hagna and Anda tend to show increasing diversity and abundance with depth, mostly between the depth range of 21 to 45 meters, meaning to say, the deeper you go, the more diverse and abundant they become. They also mostly thrive in areas with sandy and flat substrate, rocky vertical wall, and rocky gentle slope. In one of our night dives, we were able to observe school of fish hovering in one of the branching black coral colonies. This could mean that the black coral colonies are actually important habitat maybe to other organisms. To determine the ecological importance of these black corals, we assessed the density and diversity of associated macrofauna utilizing the black coral colonies as their physical habitat. We focused our survey from the depth of 15 to 40 meters within Hagna, Bohol. Results showed that 68% of the colonies hosted 18 kinds of associated macrofauna with crinoids as the most abundant species. These are some of the associated macrofauna, such as the gastropod, oyster, a fish that appeared to be a resident of the whip black coral. The crinoids were the most abundant macrofauna with 243 individuals and a density of 166 individuals per square meter. The capacity of black coral colonies to serve as physical habitat to some of these organisms could be attributed to their mechanical properties. We measured the elastic modulus of whip and branching corals, and we found out that whip corals are elastically weaker, meaning they are rigid material, while branching corals have higher elasticity and higher tolerance for rupture. This could mean that the black corals could be suitable substrate to many organisms. To summarize, the 33 specimens examined were assigned to 11 species in 3 families and 5 genera. 6 of these species were reported for the first time in the Philippines. Relative to other areas like Hawaii or Bermudan waters, the species richness is higher in Hagna and Anda Bohol combined. What is interesting is that the morphology of the skeletal spines of the black corals in Bohol showed a very high intraspecific variability, meaning spines of the same species are actually very much variable in appearance. Our data further suggests that the capacity of the terminal branches of black corals to host associated macrofauna is a function of both the elasticity of the material, the elasticity or rigidity of the material, and also the three-dimensionality of a colony that increases its surface area, such as the branching type of black corals. Their elastic or the elasticity of their material, together with the three-dimensionality of a certain colony, offers a suitable substrate for various organisms. This means that these corals support biodiversity, hence an important functional group in areas beyond the coral reef. We anticipate that in our future research on black corals, there are more species that we may be able to uncover or describe in the Bohol Sea. To end my presentation, as stakeholders, let us always be reminded of our common responsibilities as a community to protect and conserve the jewels of the Bohol Sea. I would like to acknowledge the support of the different agencies and the taxonomic assistance of black coral experts who made this research possible. Thank you for listening. Hi. Because according to many studies, they normally thrive in very low light environment. So if you look at the entire diversity of black corals, usually around 75% of them, they could be found to depth deeper than 50 meters. So one of the reasons could be because, again, they normally thrive in very low light environment. Is also probably another way to avoid competition with other corals in the shallow area. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, that's correct. Yes, yes. Yes. Actually, we're actually planning to do some molecular studies to do this probably within this year or sometime next year. So that's our target. I already have prepared a few samples for the molecular. Yes, the weak coral. Because identifying the whip type is always a challenge. And most of the time, if you cannot really ascertain of their identification, the idea would be to look at SEM of the bottom part of the coral, the middle part, and the top part of the coral. But because my permit only allowed me to collect the upper part, then I could not make a comparison. So it was difficult to identify compared to the other whips that I had. Thank you.